She entered like any other shopper, but what happened next left the boutique staff and their issy manager completely stunned when her true identity came to light. Their action wasn't just surprising, it was unforgettable. The boutique on Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills wasn't just a store, it was a symbol of status and exclusivity. Gleaming glass doors framed by pristine white marble opened into a world of luxury, rows of designer handbags, dazzling jewelry under carefully placed spotlights, and racks of clothing priced higher than most monthly rents. This wasn't a place for casual browsers, at least note in the eyes of Helena, the boutique's manager. Helena built their reputation on one core principle: protect the brand. She ran a tight operation, noidly employee, chattern arnaz, mudge glass displays, and absolutely not tolerance for anyone who didn't fit the image. Tall, impeccably dressed in a tailored pantsuit, her bob framing a sharp gaze. Helena was the ultimate gatekeeper of this exclusive world. Exclusivity isn't just about price. She often reminded her staff it's about image. That Tuesday started like any other soft classical mem. Music played in the background and Helena stood near the entrance, her keenly scanning the boutique for anything. Then the doors swung open. A woman walked in, tall, graceful, wearing oversized sunglasses and a simple cream-colored coat. Her heels clicked lightly against the polished marble. She surveyed the store, her fingers grazing a rack of silk scarves. Something about her seemed off. Maybe it was the understated outfitter, perhaps the way she lingered just a little too long near the jewelry display. Helena's instincts kicked in. She approached swiftly, her polished smile barely masking her suspicion. "Ma'am, we have a private shopping appointment scheduled shortly. I'm afraid I'll have to ask you to leave." The woman lowered her sunglasses, unveiling striking blue eyes that caught Helena off guard for just a moment. There was a flicker of recognition. Had they crossed paths before? But Helena quickly dismissed the thought. "I promise I won't take long." The woman said smoothly, her tone even and controlled. "I just wanted to take a look around." Helena, tensed courtesy gave way to professionalism. "I'm sorry, but this is a Priv. 8 establishment," she replied firmly. "If you'd like to schedule an appointment, we'd be happy to assist you another time for a brief moment." The woman's expression remained unchanged. Then, without another word, she slipped her sunglasses back on and walked out, the sharp click of her heel echoing through the space. Helena watched her leave, a subtle sense of accomplishment settling in. She had in her job protected the brand, yet something about the exchange didn't sit right. There was a quiet intensity in the woman's presence, as if she knew something Helena did. Helena had no idea just how much this moment would come back to haunt her. At first she didn't give the encounter much thought. In her world, people came and went, some tried to bluff their way into the exclusive realm of high-end luxury, hoping to appear wealthier or more important than they really were. She had seen it all: wannabe influencers flaunting counterfeit designer bags, curious tourists who didn't understand the concept of by appointment only, an event, the occasional tabloid reporter fishing for a scoop. As the day progressed, Helena's focus shifted back to her usual routines. She carefully inspected a new shipment of couture gowns, making sure every hemline was flawlessly pressed before they were displayed. She adjusted the lighting on the main jewelry case, ensuring each diamond sparkled to perfection to her. The boutique was a stage, and she was the director. No detail was too small to escape her notice. But later that night, as she locked up the store and made her way home, the image of the mysterious woman lingered in the back of her, and there was something about her, an air of confidence, an unshakable presence, as if she was used to being treated with a certain level of respect. Helena had dismissed her without a second thought, secure in the belief that she held all the authority in the situation. But now she couldn't help but wonder, who was that woman really? The next morning, Helena's day started as usual. She revved dearly, making her rounds through the store to ensure everything was in perfect order. Mid-morning, quiet murmurs began circulating among the staff. Sophia, a young sales associate, hesitantly approached her. "Did you hear about the woman from yesterday?" Her voice was hushed, but there was an undeniable excitement beneath it. Helena arched a brow. "What about her?" Sophia glanced around before lowering her voice even further. "A customer this Mo. Arning said it was Anania." Trump. Helena stiffened, her fingers tightening around the edge of the counter. She stared at Sophia, the words sinking in like slow-moving shockwaves. "Melania Trump," she repeated, her tongue laced with doubt. As Sophia confirmed, nodding eagerly. "They showed me picture on their phone. It was definitely her." Helena's mind reeled. Could it be possible? Had she, in her strict adherence to protocol, knowingly turned away one of the most famous women in the world? A wave of unease washed over her, but she quickly hid it behind her usual composed exterior. "It doesn't matter who she was," she said firmly. "Rules are rules. We can't allow just anyone to walk in without an appointment." But deep down she knew this wasn't just anyone, and as she tried to focus on the day ahead, a nagging unease took root. If that really had been Melania Trump, what would happen next? Words spread faster than Helen could have imagined. By the afternoon, the boutique was abuzz with whispers from both employees and customers alike. While Helena tried to maintain her composure, the whisper suddenly grew louder. "She looks so elegant," a customer remarked while browsing the handbags. "I can't believe anyone would treat her that way. I heard she walked out without saying a word." Another chimed in supposed, "But you just know she was." Furious, Helena, catching fragments of these conversations, felt decay and tighten in her stomach. The high-fashioned world wasn't just about luxury, it thrived on reputation. One wrong move, especially one involving someone like Melania Trump, could haunt a brand for years. That evening, as Helena scrolled through her phone, a chill ran down her spine. Social media had latched onto the story. Someone, likely a customer, had shared a vague, damning post about the incident. A certain boutique manager just threw out one of the most famous women in America, classless behavior. From a so-called luxury store thought the post didn't mention the boutique by name. The comments were buzzing with speculation. People were tagging brands, demanding answers, and some even claimed they knew exactly which store it was. Helena's chest tightened. She tossed her phone aside, trying to convince herself it would blow over. People always blow things out of proportion. Online, she muttered under her breath, but her confidence wavered. The next day, her worst fears became reality. A local news station picked up the story, airing a brief segment speculating about the boutique's identity. They never confirmed it outright, but the coverage was enough to make her feel exposed. Customers began arriving, not just to shop, but a ghost-upon woman, latte in hand and oversized sunglasses, perched on her nose, leaned toward her friend and whispered loudly, "This is the place, isn't it?" Helena's carefully crafted image of control started to crack. Still, she stood her ground. One thing was certain, Melania wasn't coming back. A woman of her status wouldn't waste her time revisiting the scene of an insult. But Helena had been mistaken there. Turn was inevitable, and there would be no ignoring it. It happened on a Friday afternoon, right at the boutique's busiest hours. Sunlight streamed through the showroom windows as well-dressed shoppers browsed the racks while sales associates hurried to assist them. Helena stood near the cashier's counter, radiating her usual confidence. But even she couldn't have foreseen what was about to unfold. The glass doors swung open with purpose, and in walked the woman Helena had so quickly dismissed, Melania Trump. But this time she wasn't alone, as small entourage accompanied her security personnel in impeccably tailored suits, a woman clutching a sleek leather briefcase, and another figure who appeared to be her publicist. Outside, a cluster of photographers hovered near the entrance, their camera flashes sparking a frenzy. The boutique's soft theme of conversation was instantly replaced by hushed gasps and hurried whispers. Melania stood poised, her expression unreadable. She wore a sleek black dress, elegant, yet commanding, accented by diamonds that shimmered with each movement. Her presence was magnetic, drawing every gaze. Toward Helena felt their stomach drop, heat rose to her cheeks, and her palms grew clammy. As Cherries met Melania's for what felt like an eternity, Melania held her gaze. There was no hostility, no bitterness, just an air of composed authority that unsettled Helena, more than an outright confrontation ever could. "Good afternoon," Melania said, her voice smooth yet firm. Like to browse nowist that allowed the words hung in the air, carrying a weight. Noon could ignore every employee, froze, glancing between Melania and Helena. Customers exchanged whispers behind manicured hands, their curiosity barely restrained. Helena's instincts screamed either to take control, to say something, anything to reclaim her authority, but now words came instead. She gave a stiff note and stepped aside, allowing Melania to enter the very boutiques she had been so abruptly turned away from just days before. As Melania moved through the store, her entourage remained closet, their eyes scanning every detail. She didn't rush, she examined each display carefully, her fingers grazing fabrics, her gaze lingering on price tags. To Helena, it felt less like a shopping trip and more like an assessment. As if Melania were silently taking stock of every inch of the boutique and every misstep. Helena had made. The tension in the air was undeniable. The other customers moved cautiously, their gestures subdued as they absorbed the unfolding moment. Helena could feel her authority slipping away with every passing second, but a moment that would truly change everything. It was just about to happen. The atmosphere in the boutique buzzed with a charged energy, a mix of suspense and anticipation. Noon could ignore customers, pretended to browse, but lingered within earshot, subtly turning their heads to watch. Employees stood rigid, unsure whether to move or stand still. But knowing this was not a time to be caught. Idol Helena, despite her best efforts, could into the background. Melania's presence had made sure of that. As she neared the jewelry counter, Melania's gazes swept across the display before settling on an intricate diamond necklace. As she turned to the nearest sales associate, a junior employee named Clara, who hesitated before stepping forward. "May I see this piece?" Melania's voice was calm, polite, but carried unmistakable authority. Clara fumbled slightly, but managed to retrieve the necklace, placing it on the counter, with care, of course. Melania examined it for a moment, then glanced over her shoulder. "What do you think?" But she wasn't asking her entourage as she was speaking to Helena, who stood frozen just a few feet away. "The question." Neither like a bolt of lightning, she faltered, struggling to find the right words. "It's a stunning piece, one of our best," she managed, though a vent to her own ears. The words felt empty. Melania gave a slow nod before shifting her gaze back to Clara. "I'll take it," he said with a small smile, letting a sleek black credit card across the counter. As Clara processed the transaction, Melania turned to Helena. Her expression remained composed, almost tranquilly. Other words sliced through the air like a blade. "It's important, wouldn't you agree, to treat everyone with respect, especially when you don't know who they are?" The boutique fell into an uneasy hush. All eyes turned to Helena, who suddenly felt as if the ground beneath her might vanish. She struggled for a response, but Melania didn't wait. Instead, she motioned to her publicist, who stepped forward with a small envelope. "This is for your staff," Melania said, extending the envelope toward Helena, a token of appreciation for their professionalism. Helena hesitated before taking. It felt unexpectedly heavy in her hands, and later when she opened it, she would discover an astonishing check meant to be shared among the employees. A striking act of generosity, standing in sharp contrast to the subtle but unmistakable reprimand. But Melania wasn't done. Turning back to Clara, who still held the diamond necklaces, she offered a warm smile. "Thank you for your help today. You've been wonderful." With that, she walked toward the door, her entourage seamlessly falling in step behind her. The moment she stepped outside, the paparazzi erupted into action, cameras flashing as they documented her every move inside the boutique. P remained frozen in silence. Customers murmured in hushed voices, while employees exchanged stunned glances. Helena stood motionless, her mind racing. She had misjudged this woman once, but the lesson she had just learned was one she would never forget. The boutique remained eerily quiet long after Melania had left. Customers trickled out, some carrying their purchases, but all leaving with stories they couldn't wait to tell behind the counter. Employees whispered among themselves, still trying to process what had just happened near the jewelry display. Helena stood frozen, her complexion pale, her hands trembling as she stared at the envelope. Melania had given her. She retreated to her office, shutting the door behind her with unsteady hands. She pulled out the check, her eyes widening at the amount. It was enough to give every employee a generous bonus, a gesture of generosity that only deepened the weight of Helena's missteps. She set the check on her desk, her mind racing. Helena had always taken pride in her professionalism and sharp judgment, but today her own biases had been exposed. She had dismissed someone based on assumptions, never honest, opting to consider who they truly were or what they deserved. Her long-held mantra of "protect the brand" suddenly felt hollow in light of what had just unfolded as she played the encounter. In her mind, a new truth settled in the boutique. Wasn't just about exclusivity or luxury, it was about experience and the experiences she had given. Melania had been one of rejection, not respect, a deep pang of regret. Thither, knowing that her actions had not only damaged her own credibility, but could have put the store's reputation at risk, as well as oft knock at the door made her jump. Clara stood hesitantly in the doorway. "Are you okay?" she asked gently. Helena nodded, though her throat felt tight. "I'm fine," she managed to say, but Clara didn't leave. Clara begging her's always careful. She wasn't angry, not really. It felt like she wanted to make a point, not humiliate anyone. Helena met Clara's gaze and saw no judgment, only quiet understanding. That small kindness was enough to pull her back to reality. The boutique remained eerily quiet long after Melania had left. Customers trickled out, some carrying their purchases, but all leaving with stories they couldn't wait to tell behind the counter. Employees whispered among themselves, still trying to process what had just happened near the jewelry display. Helena stood frozen, her complexion pale, her hands trembling as she stared at the envelope. Melania had given her. She retreated to her office, shutting the door behind her. With unsteady hands, she pulled out the check, her eyes widening at the amount. It was enough to give every employee a generous bonus, a gesture of generosity that only deepened the weight of Helena's missteps. She set the check on her desk, her mind racing. Helena had always taken pride in her professionalism and sharp judgment, but today her own biases had been exposed. She had dismissed some based on assumptions, never stopping to consider who they truly were or what they deserved. Her long-held mantra of "protect the brand" suddenly felt hollow in light of what had just unfolded as she replayed the encounter. In her mind, a new truth settled in the boutique. Wasn't just about exclusivity or luxury, it was about experience, and the experiences she had given. And in had been one of rejection, not respect, a deep pang of regret. hither knowing that her actions had not only damaged her own credibility, but could have put the store's reputation at risk as well. A soft knock at the door made her jump. Clara stood hesitantly in the doorway. "Are you okay?" she asked gently. Helena nodded, though her throat felt tight. "I'm fine," she managed to say, but Clara didn't leave. "You know," Clara began, her voice Kara, "she wasn't beyond redemption, but change was necessary. Thank you." "Clara," Helena said, her voice carrying more sincerity than had did in a long time, "and thank you for being everything I wasn't today." Clara gave a faint smile before slipping out of the office. Helena leaned back in her chair, the check still resting in her hands, and made a choice. It was time to rebuild not just her reputation, but the trust she had sorklessly put at risk the next morning. Helena arrived at the boutique earlier than usual. The crisp morning air carried the scent of fresh beginnings, and the first golden rays of sunlight stretched across the quiet streets. She took a deep breath before unlocking the doors, ready to approach the day with a renewed sense of purpose. Her first task, calling a staff meeting one by one, employees gathered in the small lounge area, exchanging curious glances as they took their seats. Clara, Sophia, and the others studied Helena carefully, sensing something different about her. "I owe you all an apology," Helena began, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "Yesterday, I let my assumptions get the best of me. It treated someone unfairly, and in doing so, I let all of you down. That's not the kind of leader I want to be, and it's certainly not the example I want to set." A heavy silence filled the room, her words lingering in the air. Helena took a breath and continued, "This is a learning moment for all of us. Respect and kindness shouldn't depend on who someone is or who we assume them to be. That's a lesson it needed to relearn, and I hope we can all carry it forward." She placed the envelope from Melania on the table. "This check is for all of your cognition of how well you handled yesterday. Even when I fell short, you earned this." A ripple of surprise and gratitude spread through the room. Clara, who had been at the center of it all, spoke up. "Thank you, Helena. I think Will took something away from yesterday." Helena nodded, a sense of relief washing over her. She wasn't angry, not really. It felt like she wanted to make a point, not humiliate anyone. Helena met Clara's gaze and saw no judgment, only quiet understanding. That small kindness was enough to pull her back to reality. She wasn't perfect, far from it, but she was making an effort to right her wrongs. The boutique was more than just a shop. It was a reflection of the people who brought it to life. From that moment on, Helena made a promise to ensure it embodied the vow of respect and inclusivity and grace. As the employees returned to their work, the boutique buzzed with new customers. Helena watched them with fresh eyes, no longer seeing them as just patrons, but as individuals with unique stories, value, and dignity. Every interaction became a chance to put her newfound lessons into practice. In the days that followed, news of Alania's visit faded from the headlines, replacing by other stories, but for Helena and her team, the impact remained. That moment had been a turning point, a powerful reminder of humility and the importance of second chances. And in a world quick to judge, they had learned that choosing kindness made all the difference. Life has a way of testing our character when we least expect it. This story is a reminder to treat every person with respect and compassion. No matter who they are, making assumptions can lead to mistakes, but taking responsibility and growing from them. Swat really defines as if this story resonated with you. Take a moment to consider how you can bring more kindness into your own life. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that inspire reflection and personal growth.